What is going on, Only Playbook fans? We're back for another episode. Week 15 is officially upon us, which means playoffs are here. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Everything you've worked hard for up until this point, we're finally here. Hopefully you made your playoffs and you have things to play for. I was very, very fortunate, Jake. I was clinched in 3 or 4 leagues, and in my main league, I had to win, and I needed Shishot. Shout out to the GOAT. Needed to beat his opponent to get me in, and I got in. So I'm officially the 6th seed, made the playoffs in 4 of 4 leagues. So I'm feeling pretty good, man. How are you feeling?
Yeah, feeling good. I'm in the playoffs in all 3 leagues as well. So our league that we're in for redraft, not looking great. I have the #1 scoring team in a first round matchup. Somehow got the 3 seed. So going to see if we can pull off a major upset this week. But other leagues looking pretty good. Actually, think I got a pretty good chance to make a run. So I can't complain.
Yeah, it's awesome to still be in the game when you're in the playoffs. The playoffs are so rewarding, and obviously, I think with fantasy, there's a lot of luck that's involved, right? Injuries and all that stuff. But I think if you accomplish making the playoffs, I think that's as much of what you can control. Everything else that happens beyond this, it's a 1-week matchup. One team can go absolutely bonkers, and your team just shits the bed at the wrong time, and you're kind of screwed that way. But I think the fact that we made playoffs in 7 of 7 leagues combined, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So we can toot our own horn a little bit there.
Not a bad spot to be sitting when you're banking on Shishot to win. I mean, that's almost
exactly.
a lot.
I know.
Feel good about making the playoffs. That dude never loses. So.
This man didn't even have CMC playing. CMC was on a bye, so his best player was on a bye. And he does something that I didn't see anybody else doing. He had Kyron Williams, and he also started Blake Corum, who ended up putting up like 25 points. Actually outscored Kyron Williams. That was the X factor in his starts. So again, he's 1 of 1. So I really appreciate that, and I hope I can see him in the semifinals and pull off an upset. So
yeah. Also, a quick shout out there, Shishot, if you're listening to the pod here today, we want you in the next Dynasty League. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you that we want you to join that league. So please be a part of it.
Yeah, Jake's been begging. So we got to figure out a way to make that work.
I got to compete with him somehow, and I can't get in the main league yet. So I'm relegated, still waiting to get in that one.
Yeah, man, your time will come. I think all in good time. But I'll make sure he hears this part of the podcast so that we can try to convince him to get into our Dynasty League next year. Same format today, Jake. Anytime touchdown bets, start sits, boom busts, and hidden gem defenses and kickers. It is week 15, so 0 teams on buys. Everybody's playing. All players are available to use. So let's run through these anytime touchdown bets real quick. Kicking us off tonight, we have the Atlanta Falcons traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. I'm keeping it simple. Home team running back. Give me Bucky Irving to find the end zone plus 120. He's looked a lot better the last couple of weeks. It looks like he's finally over the injury, and I think his play time will just continue to increase. Tampa Bay's offense looked really, really bad this past week, but good news is they're getting Evans back. They're getting Jalen McMillan back. So all of their receiving core should be healthy and playing, which should open up the running game that much more. Falcons are kind of in a downward spiral right now, so I'm going to take Bucky Irving at plus 120.
Yeah, I think mine is a little bit of a hopeful pick here. We really need the Falcons to win here as a Panther fan. I took Kyle Pitts at plus 235. So I think that he's really been the primary target for Kirk Cousins. If there's ever a time I need Kirk Cousins to come back and do something big for me, it's this week against the Bucs. So big Falcons fan this week, and I got Kyle Pitts.
I like it. I like Pitts a lot. I have actually a start sit question that involves Kyle Pitts, so stay tuned for that. Next game on the board, the Houston Texans are at home taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Nico Collins plus 110 to find the end zone. The Texans are humming. The Cardinals are heading in the opposite direction. Seems like they're tanking for a better draft pick, and the Texans have a chance to win the division still. So they're in a much more fruitful situation to take advantage of. Nico Collins, their best receiver. I like him finding the end zone here, plus 110.
Yeah, I love it. We had just talked a little bit before we got started. I hate going against the Texans at all just because that defense is unbelievable. But Trey McBride at plus 160 felt like it was still a really good price. I think Michael Wilson's really going to struggle this week, although he's been getting 15 targets a game. Don't imagine he's going to be nearly as successful against this Houston defense as elite as they are. So if the Cardinals are going to find the end zone at all, if they don't put up 0, then I think it's got to be Trey McBride. So I like the price really with Trey McBride as the best tight end. And like we talked about before, really wide receiver 4 this season. So still think that he may just be too elite to stop him completely, hoping he finds the end zone at least once this week.
Yeah, it'd be really nice if McBride was matchup proof. That would be awesome. And the Texans are a tough test. So let's see. Bengals, Ravens, Jake, this should be a fantasy owners happy place, if you will. I think everybody in this game has the opportunity to score a lot of points. We've already talked about it all season ad nauseum. Cincinnati Bengals, historically bad defense, but specifically historically bad when guarding opposing tight ends. And I don't just mean starting tight ends. I don't even mean the backup tight end. The third string tight end has been catching touchdowns in games against the Cincinnati Bengals. It's almost like they don't even choose to cover the tight end position. So I'm keeping this simple. I've got 2 picks for you, man. Mark Andrews, plus 155. They extended him for 3 years, so clearly they're going to continue to use him. But I'm also taking Isaiah Likely at plus 245. I think both of these guys are going to get in the end zone. Likely should have 5 touchdowns over his last 3 games. I think one fumbled out of the end zone at the 1-yard line, and the other one was that obnoxious, terrible reversal of a call where I thought he had 2 hands on the ball, 2 steps into the end zone. I don't know how you make a football move in the end zone. 2 feet in means the touchdown has already happened. So what more are they asking you to do? Doesn't make sense to me. But I think regardless, both of those guys are going to find the end zone. So plus 155, plus 245 for me.
Yeah, I love those. I actually should have been starting both. I have both the Bills tight ends on my team. Dawson Knox and Kincaid both went nuts last week against them. I'm going to go with Chase Brown this week. Found the end zone twice last week. Ravens have not been that strong against the run game. He's plus 155, so I feel like you're getting a great price here for a guy that's clearly been a huge part of the offense. Didn't quite get the yards last week, but found the end zone twice. I expect him to be a big part of the offense again this week for the Bengals. So love the price of plus 155.
And the good thing about this game is both teams are basically on their heels, barely holding on to playoff opportunities. I think like less than 5% for both. So, both of them are going to be actively involved in trying to score a lot of points, which is amazing for fantasy owners. So everybody should eat in that game. Bills traveling to New England to take on the Patriots divisional game. This could potentially be for the division. If the Bills win, they're, I think, 1 game back or something and holding the tiebreaker. So really, really important. And if the Patriots win, I think they clinch the division. So I'm going to take the Superman himself, Captain America, as we like to call him, Josh Allen, minus 110 to find the end zone. He's the best fantasy quarterback in the league. I think he's the best quarterback in the league right now. So I'm going to take a minus 110 to find the end zone.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going with James Cook. He's at minus 115, so similar price. Really feel like the Bills are going to win this game, although the Patriots have been the better team so far this year. I just think that they may still be a year or so away. Whereas Josh Allen, I think, sees the window opening. Patrick Mahomes, unlikely to be a part of the playoffs this year unless they're winning out. He's going to see that glaring window of if there's a time to win the AFC, it's got to be when Mahomes is weakened. So I think they're going to come into this game very motivated. Great opportunity for them to put a statement game together. So I think the Bills players are where I'm going to lean this week.
Yeah, I think the sea can't part any better than it's parting potentially for Josh Allen this year. We talked about Mahomes maybe not even making the playoffs. Not just Mahomes, Burrow and Lamar may not even make the playoffs. And if that's the case, then Josh Allen's going through who? Bo Nix, Drake May. I love Drake May, and I think he's the future. But still, this is a team that's had one of the easiest strength of schedules all year. So this is going to be a really tough test for a team that has to win. So I agree with you. I think this is going to be a absolute dog fest, but I think Josh Allen's going to do heroic things. Browns Bears in Chicago. Jake, we talked a little bit about this game before we started recording. The temperature and the wind chill is supposed to be like minus 20. So it's going to be absolutely atrocious. I don't even know who's going to score, but I'm just going to take Harold Fannin Jr. for the Browns to get into the end zone plus 300. He is heavily involved. If it is in fact really cold or really windy and the weather is not working in your favor, I know they're going to try to run the ball a lot, but that also means really short, quick passes. And that works in the favor of Harold Fannin. The Bears offense, they've been a lot better under Ben Johnson, but I don't think they're, mistake proof. So I think with the weather, with Caleb Williams sometimes being hot or cold, I think there's an opportunity for them to turn the ball over. Browns get a short field position. And then, Shedeur Sanders does his magic and finds Harold Fannin. So I'm taking Fannin. I like the price a lot, plus 300 to get in the end zone.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be going with the tight end at similar odds on the opposite side of the ball. I got Colson Loveland this week. So plus 280. He's really started to trickle in as kind of the primary tight end. Browns did get gashed last week in the run game, which I think no one expected of any team to beat them up. It was the Tennessee Titans. I do not foresee that happening with Swift and Monangai this week. I think there's going to be a lot more emphasis on the run game, especially with the temperature like it is. So I think that's going to rely a lot more on Caleb Williams to throw the football. Colson Loveland seems like he's trickling in a little bit more as a safety valve for him. So plus 280, again, really love the price of the tight end this week.
That's a great price. I like that as well. Let's see if both tight ends can find the end zone. Raiders traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles in what seems like a massive mismatch. I'm going to keep it simple again. Last week, A.J. Brown, I took him again. He did not find the end zone, but he had a great game. He seems to be obviously back to his wide receiver 1 status. So I'm going to take him to find the end zone. I actually did not find a price on this when I wrote this down yesterday, so I don't know if odds have been listed, but he can't be that bad. So I'm going to take A.J. Brown this week to get in the end zone.
Yeah, I think it was actually plus 115 or so when I looked earlier.
Okay.
I took a little bit more of a long shot this week. So Raiders were still unsure who's going to be starting at quarterback for them. Eagles obviously have an elite defense. So I'm going to take that defense to find the end zone this week. So Eagles defense at plus 450. I think there's a great opportunity for either a fumble in the backfield or a pick six to occur here. So I'll be rooting hard for a long shot of the Eagles defense to get in the end zone.
Yeah, I actually snagged that defense and I'm starting him in one of my leagues. So I absolutely love that spot. Chiefs basically hanging on for dear life, hosting the Chargers, who had a absolutely awesome performance. Who did they just beat? The Lions, was it? Am I missing? Who did the Chargers just beat in primetime this past week? Eagles. Sorry. Yeah, Eagles. Yeah. So already a really definitive victory. Turned the ball over for Jalen Hurts, who had one of his worst games ever. So that defense is here to stay. Now they take on Patrick Mahomes. So back-to-back weeks, you're taking on perennial Super Bowl contenders from last year. I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes. He's going to have to go superhero mode here, find the end zone, plus 500, Jake. So let me get a little Patty Mahomes scramble into the end zone here.
Yeah, I was a little later on taking the odds than you, but I have Mahomes at plus 450. So I actually feel very similar. That defense has been pretty good at guarding receivers. Rice struggled quite a bit last week. Kelsey hasn't been playing incredible. So one thing I do trust is Mahomes' ability to keep them in football games. So I think he's going to do whatever it takes. They know they have to win out. Chargers have a chance to really place the dagger here. So I could really see Mahomes using his legs. It's died down a little bit since Rice came back. But, I think when he's in a must-win spot, there's nobody I trust more. So I'm going with Mahomes as well.
Absolutely. I think last week when the Eagles were playing the Chargers, there was some stat that the Chargers lead the NFL in least amount of 20-plus yard completions through the air. So they are just an absolute unit on defense that does not allow big plays. So Mahomes is going to have to maximize.
And Hurts did run the ball okay.
He did.
Hurts actually ran the ball for a couple of 10, 15-yard carries. So I think Mahomes is plenty capable of doing that as well.
Yep. The Jaguars, the surprising Jacksonville Jaguars, are hosting the New York Jets this week. I'm going to take the Jaguars tight end Brenton Strange to find the end zone. I think his second week back from injury, he's always been involved. The offense looks a lot better now. I didn't have a price on this either. I don't know if you saw anything recently, but I did not have a price yesterday when I posted this. So Brenton Strange not listed, but he should be good odds, obviously plus money. So I'm going to take him to find the end zone here.
Yeah, I think he was plus 225 when I was going in and placing mine a little bit earlier. I'm going with a guy that's really been the fantasy letdown. I think he could be argued as the biggest reach in fantasy this year, but I think he's going to have a really good week. I think the Jets have a really poor secondary overall. So I'm going to go with Brian Thomas Jr. this week, BTJ. He's at plus 160. I really love the price here. I think there's a great opportunity that he can finally get going. And I know folks that have drafted him early would love that with the playoffs here. If you're in the playoffs, then him finding the end zone would be huge this week.
Yeah, if your team somehow made the playoffs, drafting Brian Thomas Jr. as early as you did, and he ends up going off for the last 3 weeks, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? So weathering the storm and then reaping the benefits when they actually come through for you. Giants Commanders divisional game in New York. I'm taking Jackson Dart. He's back. He runs the ball quite often. Commanders have one of the worst defenses in football. They just saw the Vikings and J.J. McCarthy put up 31 on them in McCarthy's best game. And I know everybody's, been shitting on McCarthy and his terrible performance. So if that's any indicator, then I think Dart should have a fantastic day. He's going to find the end zone, scramble in one for plus 145.
Yep. I actually am right there with you. I took Jackson Dart here this week as well. Really just not enough players on the Giants offense that I trust to find the end zone. Don't hate Theo Johnson, the tight end this week either. I think he was listed at like plus 280. So that would probably be a second one that I might take in this game just because the Commanders defense obviously got gashed by the Vikings last week. I think there's a good chance the Giants can put up 30 plus on them this week as well.
Yep, absolutely. Jake, your Panthers are traveling to New Orleans, one of your least favorite teams, taking on the Saints at the Superdome. I'm going to take a Saints running back here. I don't think Kamara is going to play. He's questionable. He's been injured. There's really nothing left for them to play for. He does not need to come back really for the rest of the year. So I'm going to hold out hope that he's not going to play again. And I'm taking Devin Neal to find the end zone. He actually looked good last week. He looks good overall. It's just about finding the run lanes. Panthers pass defense has been really, really strong here the last couple of weeks, but I think their one weakness is the ability to run the football against them. So Devin Neal plus 185 to find the end zone.
Yeah, I like it. I hope you're wrong on that one, but I'm going to go with Rico Dowdle. So Saul hit plus 135 here. I really think we've not leaned on him nearly as much as we did over that kind of 4 or 5 week stretch. I think this is a great opportunity to get back to that coming out of a bye week, readjusting the game plan. I think Rico Dowdle will be a big part of it. So love him finding the end zone at plus 135. Don't think we're really going to have a ton of issues moving the ball. We did, surprisingly, the first time we played them, but I think we'll have a much better matchup this time. So really like Rico.
I like it. Hopefully, I don't know what his split with Chuba is going to look like moving forward. It just seems like Chuba's slowly been eating into some of the playing time, but I think it's more so just passing work. And I think they kind of, trade off drives, if you will. So hopefully we get some Rico magic this week.
It's a tough spot because the Panthers really want Chuba to be the guy because he's already on a 3-year contract that we paid him. Rico's on a 1-year deal. But I think anybody who's watching the Panthers play, if there are people watching the Panthers play, you can clearly see that Rico Dowdle's the superior running back to the two. So it's just a matter of, do we want to win right now, or are we trying to develop the guy that we want to be the future player? But I think Rico should start to trickle back up in his carries this week. Maybe not get the passing game he had been, though. Chuba may take those touches.
Yep. If he can find the end zone, then I think you're in a good spot, obviously, especially with the anytime touchdown bet. Rams-Lions should be an awesome game. Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, old teams. I always like this matchup. I'm going to take a little bit of an outlier here. None of the prices were that entertaining. Kyron Williams was pretty juiced up. Devontae Adams is extremely juiced up nowadays. Even Puka had a little bit of juice on there. So I'm going to take the Rams tight end, Colby Parkinson, to find the end zone plus 230.
Yeah, I like it. I was kind of feeling the exact same way. All the players that I would want to bet were pretty juiced up. Devontae Adams obviously was like minus 180 this week because he can't stop finding the end zone. I went with Jamison Williams this week. I feel like it's a big-time boom-bust player, but we have seen that folks can score against the Rams. I mean, Panthers put up 31 points on them. We were able to pass the ball pretty well. So I think Jamison Williams could be a great opportunity to find the end zone, plus 175 this week.
I like it. Broncos at home taking on the Green Bay Packers in what should be another great matchup. Some old storied franchises who are, kind of back on the up and up with new young quarterbacks. So I love to see it. I'm taking one young quarterback here. Said Bo Nix, the home team quarterback, to scramble into the end zone. Packers have a good defense. I think Bo's going to have to get creative, scrambling, using his legs, plus 500 to find the end zone this week.
Yeah, I love it. I went with the Bronco here as well. I got RJ Harvey. Clearly the breakout has started with RJ Harvey. He's looked really good. He's been involved in the passing game. So I think there's just a lot of different ways this guy can get the football and find the end zone. So, and really not a true wide receiver one. Sutton plays well. They have Franklin that plays pretty well, but RJ Harvey seems to be the most consistent piece of this offense. So I really like him at plus 125, getting plus money there. So love the price.
I like it. Colts Seahawks in what, 3-4 weeks ago would have been a tremendous matchup, but this week, no Daniel Jones. If you haven't heard the news, Phillip Rivers has come out of retirement at the ripe age of 44. I don't know if the plan is to start him because they do have Riley Leonard, who actually logged the full week of practice. So I don't know who actually is going to start. It's going to be kind of crazy if Phillip Rivers does start at age 44. I think that's a spectacle everybody's going to want to tune in for, because how can you not like Phillip Rivers? So I think that would be a fun game to watch. But I'm going to go on the other side of the ball here. Hawks at home. I'm not taking JSN. I'm taking Cooper Kupp. He found the end zone, I believe, last week, plus 270 to find the end zone. Colts secondary is extremely exploitable. I think if they have to do anything, they're going to have to double team JSN because he just can't be stopped. And that's going to leave old man Cooper Kupp up, freeing up for a one-on-one potential target. And I think he can still beat his man. So plus 270 to find the end zone.
Secretly pulling for it to be Riley Leonard, just being a former Duke guy, have to pull for him, going from one Duke guy to the next. But
that is crazy, actually. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about the one Duke guy to another Duke guy.
The only two Duke quarterbacks in the league are both Colts. And, I love Riley Leonard. I don't know that he's an NFL quarterback, but hopefully they at least give him a shot to bridge the gap other than bringing in a 44-year-old. But we'll see how it goes. This one, I don't actually love the bet, but I just couldn't ignore the price. I felt it was far too disrespectful for this player. Tyler Warren at plus 370 is just ridiculous to me. I think that probably gives you a good idea of what Vegas is thinking here, that offense is not going to be very productive. But anytime I'm seeing Tyler Warren at plus 370 for a guy that I feel is already becoming one of the best tight ends in the NFL, I just can't stay away from that price. So could be totally off on this one. They may not be able to move the ball against the Seahawks defense at all. But anytime I see that price, I'll take the sucker bet.
Yeah, that's a great price. I think that's a testament to kind of what you said, how they envisioned this game going. A crazier bet I saw, Jake, was Phillip Rivers. They had his before Riley Leonard had logged a full practice. They had Rivers lines out. Phillip Rivers to throw for over 0.5 touchdown passes was plus money. So are they just not thinking Phillip Rivers can even throw one touchdown pass against the Hawks? Because that's kind of crazy. Like, I understand he's old. I get all that. They could be down 45-0 and he gets a garbage time touchdown. And again, he's a veteran. He's a proven great quarterback that's a veteran. So I think that's kind of disrespectful, even though he hasn't snapped the football in the NFL in 5 years. So I don't know.
It's not like guys haven't played at that age. I mean, Brady was 43, 44 when he was throwing touchdowns for Tampa. So, I mean, obviously he'd been in the league, but if a guy like that comes back, you have to expect there's going to be some level of just muscle memory,
competency. Yeah. One touchdown pass at plus money is kind of crazy. I'm not going to lie. 49ers taking on the worst team in the NFL, who, again, just ran all over the Cleveland Browns last week. I don't know how or why. So they're taking on the Titans, 49ers at home. A little bit different of a bet here. CMC was, I think, minus 355 to find the end zone. So I'm going to go ahead and take CMC for 2 touchdowns this week. Jake, plus 150 to find the end zone twice. I think this is a insanely advantageous matchup for the first week of your playoffs. If you're a CMC owner, he's taking on probably the worst defense in football. So I think, 30 plus points is in the cards, and that's going to probably mean 2 touchdowns for CMC.
A little bit of a homer pick for you after I just traded you Christian McCaffrey in Dynasty. So, I'm going to go with George Kittle this week, plus 125. Like you said, I really don't think the 49ers are going to have any trouble scoring. CMC is going to find the end zone. I think that's just a given, but wasn't going to take plus 370 or minus 375. So just really took the next best option. Don't hate Jennings at plus 190 either. That felt like a pretty good price, but I feel like Kittle is probably going to be the best option if it's someone outside of Christian McCaffrey. But like you said, it could just be a complete McCaffrey takeover this week.
Yeah, McCaffrey for 5 touchdowns. Why not? Just why not? Vikings Cowboys. I will be in attendance Sunday night here at Jerry's World. I am taking TJ Hawkinson. We talked about him earlier. We know how McCarthy loves his tight ends. Last week, he found Oliver, the backup tight end, for 2 and Hawkinson for 1. I do think this is going to be a big Justin Jefferson game. I think he finally kind of comes back to the status that he's had over the course of his last 4 or 5 years. So I think a big game is on the horizon for him. But I think with the price, TJ Hawkinson versus a terrible Cowboys defense with a quarterback that loves to throw it to his tight ends at plus 400 is just way too nice of a price for me to ignore. I'm going to take that all day long.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit beforehand. I was very close to taking Oliver to find the end zone this week just because McCarthy seems to really like him for whatever reason. They have a really good connection. But I went with George Pickens at minus 105 this week. So especially coming off of what was his worst game of the year by far last week, I think you really just can't hold him down twice. I mean, he's an elite receiver, gets open. Vikings do have a great defense. We still don't know about what's going to be the case with CD this week. I think if CD's out, that even more so makes this a great price. You might even see this shoot up. So maybe something that if you think CD's not going to play this week, you might want to go take this one early because I don't think he'll sit at minus 105 if CD's out this week and he's the primary target. So love Pickens this week against the Vikings defense, even with them being a pretty good secondary. A lot of points I think are going to be scored in this game.
Yeah, I read a stat that I think Dak is the best quarterback against the blitz, and the Vikings are the number 1 blitzing team. So if Dak is able to decipher what the defense and the coverages look like, he already know where he's going to be going with the ball before the ball is snapped. So I think there is a world where Pickens gets a lot of targets, and if Lamb is out, and you are desperate in a flex spot or something, based on how much he got used last week, Ryan Flanoy would not be the worst start in the world. I know it's the Vikings defense. They're one of the better defenses at limiting wide receiver points. But again, I don't think the Cowboys offense can really be stopped truly unless Dak is turning the ball over, which he hasn't been doing much this year. So I do really like that matchup despite, what the numbers say about the Vikings defense. So I love Pickens. We need a big Pickens week. I have Pickens. Yeah.
I tend to be the king of picking up players and then dropping them in Dynasty before they take over. Like I had Vidal. I drafted Vidal in our Dynasty league, dropped him because I didn't think he was on the practice squad. Ends up being the starter. I picked up Ryan there for a week or two just to try to spot start him. wasn't doing anything, dropped him, and then of course he has an explosive game. Couldn't get him back on waiver wires, so yeah, just keep an eye out for who I drop in dynasty leagues, and that should be a good indication of who's about to take over.
Oh man, that's funny. Last game on the board, Jake, Monday night, the Steelers are hosting the Miami Dolphins. I didn't have a line on this as well, but the Dolphins, red zone, I'm going to take Darren Waller. He had a down game last week coming back from injury, but we've seen his target and his usage, especially in the red zone. And again, the Dolphins don't have big receivers. Their running back is also pretty small. I know they love to run the football, but if the Steelers can somewhat stop the run, they're susceptible to passing work, specifically from the tight end position. I think they're 27th or 28th against opposing tight ends. So I see a world where Darren Waller finds the end zone this week, and I don't have the price. But I think if I had to guess, it's probably north of plus 200.
Yeah. I got Kenneth Gainwell this week. So they kind of are splitting touches. He seems to be the primary receiving back for the Steelers. So I think plus 170, really like the price. I think they're going to be able to put up points against the Dolphins. I don't really see that being an issue. So I think there's a good opportunity for him to get in the end zone this week. Okay.
Let's move into our start sits, Jake. This week we have tight end start sit question. Theo Johnson taking on the Washington Commanders. Kyle Pitts at Tampa Bay with no Drake London again. Or Isaiah Likely against the historically terrible Cincinnati Bengals defense. I actually like all of these plays, Jake. Where are you leaning here?
Yeah, I honestly, all three of them look pretty good. I think if I had to pick one out of the three, I'm probably taking Pitts just because I think he's going to get the highest target share. He's going to be the primary receiver for Tampa, whereas Likely, he's a backup tight end. I think, like you had talked about earlier, there's a great chance he has an explosive game. We saw what Dawson Knox did last week. Absolutely went off against the Bengals defense. So I would lean one of those two. Not that I don't like Theo Johnson. I just think the other two are both great options, but I'd lean Pitts purely on volume. But I think Likely is a great option as well.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat in the sense that Pitts volume, they could be down, reverse game script, and no London. So there's just a lack of true, pass catchers out there. But I do think the likely matchup against Cincinnati, this could be like a 38-31 shootout. And if that's the case, I'm almost guaranteeing that Isaiah Likely finds the end zone. So I think both of these matchups are pretty good. I mean, don't call me crazy, but if you're really debating like a flex that's like, you had Alec Pierce or somebody that was on the Colts, something like that, it is not the craziest thing in the world to start Pitts and Likely this week. I just think they're both going to have pretty good games. But if I had to lean one way, I'm going to take Pitts for the same reason you mentioned. It's just the volume. Next on the board, defensive matchup here, Jake. Would you start your Panthers defense at the New Orleans Saints, or would you start the Browns defense that got absolutely shat on by the Tennessee Titans, but they are at Chicago in that horrible weather?
Yeah, for me, this one's pretty easy. I'm going with the Panther defense. I mean, the Saints only scored 17 on us the first time, and I think a lot of that was just we had the wrong game script coming into the game. Our defenses looked really good. They're down a lot of pieces. Obviously, since that matchup, Rashid Shaheed's gone, Kamara's gone, or likely not playing. So I really think it's a great script for the Panthers defense this week. I think also Panthers are coming into this game a lot more motivated than the Browns are going to be. We're in a position where we could make the playoffs, and we really need a win going into a game against Tampa the following week. So this one would be a no-brainer for me just because the Panthers have so much more to play for than the Browns, who really, if you look at it, they should want to lose this game. Mm-hmm. There's really no vested interest other than you wanting to see Shedeur continue to play well and develop. Outside of that, you really have no vested interest in winning this game, where Chicago has every interest in trying to win this game in a tough division.
Yep, I think you're right. I think I also lean Carolina, although because of the weather, because we know how Caleb can be slightly erratic, and because the Bears have been leaning on the run game, which again doesn't necessarily create the explosives that you would need to score quickly. I don't think the Browns defense is that bad of a start because they are a good defense. Last week was just kind of an anomaly against one of the worst teams. Sometimes, you take a team for granted and they just
special teams turnovers.
Yeah, and then they just kind of whoop up all over you. But I think both are good starts, but I'm with you. I would lean Carolina as well. In fact, I am starting Carolina. So thank you for reinstilling my confidence in your favorite team.
Yeah. And then actually these next three were all mine. So I told you guys earlier in this episode that I'm in a very tough spot this week going into the playoffs against the highest scoring team. So Sweecar, I'm going to ask you first, and then I'll kind of give my thoughts on what I was thinking for this week. So got to start one of these at receiver this week. I have Michael Wilson, who's at Houston, Chris Olave against Carolina, or Ladd against Kansas City.
Oh man, these are so tough. I think I'm not starting anybody against Houston. I've already made that mistake before, and I will not make it again. Even though Michael Wilson was getting so many targets, I don't think Marvin Harrison Jr. has been ruled out yet, and that also impacts that start. So pair that with the fact that it's at Houston against one of the best defenses. I'm not starting Michael Wilson, and I think the situation with Ladd is interesting. I mean, we already know how talented of a receiver he is. Kansas City's got a good defense. Kansas City is holding on for dear life, and the Chargers just had one of their best wins of the season. So kind of a letdown spot traveling to Kansas City. It's going to be cold. So, and they have a lot of mouths they can feed. And now Omarion Hampton is healthy. So him and Vidal have made kind of a pretty good 1-2 punch. So I think the answer here has to be Chris Olave, simply because there's nobody else on that team, man. Like Juwan Johnson is there. Olave is a target hog. Yes, Carolina's defense is good. They could allow quite literally less than 10 points, but that doesn't mean Olave can't get like 6 for 90 or something like that. Just garbage time, process of elimination. There's nobody else to really throw the football to. I mean, I guess who did they trade for? Devon Vele, maybe, I think is their wide receiver 2 right now. So I don't really feel good about that. And so if I had to pick, I'm taking Olave, but man, I don't feel good about any of those players, Jake.
I know it's a really tough spot. I was thinking that too. Michael Wilson was kind of out just because Houston's such a problem this year. Ladd, the only reason I was thinking potentially with him is I do think, even though the Chargers are coming off a huge win, when you have a chance to step on the throat of Kansas City, you have to try to take advantage of it. So I think they're going to come in here as motivated as the Chiefs to win this game. When you have a chance to put them to sleep, you have to want to do it. I mean, you really do not want to see this team in the playoffs. And so I was thinking a little bit like Ladd could still have a decent game, but there's just so many options in that offense. So I was kind of thinking along the same lines. So I think you verified my confidence there in Olave being the best option of the 3 this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
This next one's a dynasty matchup. So actually, these are both pretty favorable. Obviously, I have Joe Burrow as QB1. We're in a 2 QB start league. So do I take Bryce Young at New Orleans, or do I take Aaron Rodgers facing off against Miami at home?
I'm taking Bryce Young here, man. I love Rodgers. He's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Miami's an advantageous matchup. The Saints defense actually is not the worst defense. They're actually not bad. And they've been playing a lot better recently, but I think divisional game, like you said, Panthers are coming off of bye, and are they winning the division right now?
Yep. Yeah. Well, we're tied with Tampa at the top.
And I think they hold the tiebreaker based on whatever the tiebreaker is right now. So if that's the case, I think they're going to want to continue to hold on to that lead. So I think this situation is much more fruitful for Bryce Young. He's had a couple of really good games. So building off that momentum, I think is going to be probably a pretty good spot. Again, that doesn't mean Rodgers can't put up like 18 points or something, but I think his ceiling, his upside potential is just not there anymore. I mean, it's just the reality. Their receiving core isn't quite what we need it to be. DK's kind of a one-trick pony, and then they don't really have anybody else. Their second best receiver is Kenneth Gainwell, so who's a running back. So it's an unfortunate situation for a quarterback, and you don't feel good coming into your playoffs starting somebody like that. So I would lean Bryce Young here.
Yeah, I feel the same way. The only thing that made me a little bit nervous about this one is New Orleans did just kind of blank Baker Mayfield. Probably one of his worst games of the entire season. I'm not in the boat where I'm ready to say Bryce Young is better than Baker Mayfield at this point. I'm just not going to be that kind of a homer fan. I love what Bryce Young is doing this year. I think he's been substantially better than I think even most Panther fans expected. But this does make me a little nervous because New Orleans did play Baker so well. And, even though their season means nothing at this point, getting to spoil ours would be, I'm sure, something they would love to do. Whereas Miami doesn't have as much of a vested interest, but they are in the playoff picture. So maybe they'll actually try to contend a little bit more. But I think I'm leaning towards starting Bryce Young as well, especially with it being at New Orleans. It's in a dome. Weather's not going to play any factor in the game. Whereas Pittsburgh's at home. It's going to be in Pittsburgh. Who knows what the weather's going to look like? Could be freezing up there. So simply because of that, I think I kind of lean a little bit more towards Bryce Young.
Yep, I respect that. I agree too.
And then my last one, really did not want to have to start either of these players in a dynasty playoff, but with T. Higgins likely not playing this week, this is what I'm stuck with at receiver. So would you go Darius Slayton against Washington, or are you taking Pop Douglas against the Bills?
Oh my God, what a terrible situation to be in. I think I'm gonna take Darius Slayton just because, again, Wan'Dale Robinson is wide receiver 1, so Slayton does slot right into the wide receiver 2 role there. And he's been pretty consistent. He's a consistent veteran. He's got a solid, safe floor, and it's a really good matchup against Washington, who, again, JJ McCarthy absolutely carved up. So I think Jackson Dart has the ability to do the same thing. And with Pop Douglas, that 1 week you started him, he went off, scored the touchdown, but there's just too many receivers on the Patriots team. I don't know know even how much these guys play. Even their number one receiver, Stephon Diggs, is only on the field like 50-60% of snaps. So they do a really good job of rotating their receivers in and out with Kayshon Boutte, Pop Douglas, Diggs, and I'm forgetting anybody else that they may have right now. But other than that, I think that's why. Yeah, Mac Hollins. That's why I lean Darius Slayton. I just think Jackson Dart is a slinger. They're going to probably, score a lot of points against Washington, who's really, really bad on defense. So I think Darius Slayton's going to give you a pretty safe floor here.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. Pop Douglas, like you said, he had the one big game. That was actually coming off of his uncle passing away, so had a huge game in his honor. Totally love that he did that. But outside of that, there really just hasn't been a lot of start potential here. I've played him a few times this week this season on bye weeks. He's gotten me like 3-4 points. So not really been any consistency there. I love him as a player. I really hope that he does well, but I think I would probably lean more towards Slayton just because he's going to be the consistent wide receiver too, at least in this offense behind Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yep, absolutely. That is what we had for start sits, Jake. Let's run through our boom busts, hidden gem kickers, and defenses real quick. My boom this week, Jamar Chase. Wow, what a crazy name to throw out there. Mr. Obvious, as they call me. No Higgins this week. He's still in concussion protocol. I don't think he's going to clear concussion protocol. Ravens pass D against wide receivers ranks 23rd across the league. And the last time they just played 2 weeks ago, Chase went 7 for 110 on 14 targets. So I'm expecting this to be Jamar Chase's first 20-point week in I think since week 8. So I think it's been a while since Chase has had that real boom week. They are still with a sliver of chance in the playoff race. And Joe Burrow's absolutely going to sling it. So Jamar Chase absolutely primed for a boom week.
Yeah, I'm kind of taking the same route as you here, taking another superstar. Mine's Justin Jefferson this week. So after 5 consecutive weeks of single-digit points, just unheard of for who I still believe is a top 3 receiver in the game. You could argue a lot of names in there, but I put Justin Jefferson in that top 3 comfortably and don't feel bad about it. I think it's just a matter of time. Him and JJ McCarthy haven't had a lot of time to play together. They did actually look very strong together earlier in the year in a couple of games. He looked very good with Carson Wentz in the offense. I think this is a week where you're playing against a terrible secondary, great opportunity to feed the football to your best player. So if you're on the fence about starting Justin Jefferson this week, I know I've gotten that question from my brother who owns Justin Jefferson. He's in the playoffs. This is a week that I'm willing to be wrong on it, but I think it's Justin Jefferson's time to finally reinsert himself as a 15, 20-point game this week.
Would be the perfect week to do it since I will be in attendance. So let's absolutely hope for that. My bust this week, Jake, another big name, it's Brock Bowers. He's taking on the Philadelphia defense. They're 3rd best against opposing tight ends. Right now, if you look at Brock's stat lines, if he's not getting in the end zone, he's fine, but he's not quite, giving you the fruitfulness that somebody that you drafted in that, with that caliber pick like Brock Bowers would have been he's not paying those same dividends back to you. So that's why I feel like there are so many good tight end options this week. We just went through 3 of them earlier in the episode. So I just think there's so many other matchups that I would like to try to exploit in the playoffs versus putting a superstar in there who has a backup quarterback in Kenny Pickett that's going to play. That offense is dysfunctional. They can barely even get first downs, let alone score touchdowns. So, and they're taking on Philadelphia, who we just saw had a really, really good defensive performance. And I think, there's a world where they absolutely shut down the Raiders. So I think Brock Bowers has the ability to be a big bust this week.
Yeah, I'm actually going with Michael Wilson this week. So he was a guy that I pretty firmly wanted to place on the bench. We confirmed that definitely should be the case. But when you're going against this Houston defense, I think looking ahead even to future playoff matchups, if you see your receivers are playing Houston, I would really try to find somebody that you can plug into that place instead. This is just a nightmare matchup for any team. I mean, the Houston Texans are a real threat in the playoffs simply because that defense, you cannot score on them. So I would really be looking ahead at this in your playoff matchups. If you see matchups against Houston, would strongly look other directions. Michael Wilson probably will get a lot of targets this week just because they don't have anyone else to throw it to. But I'm not confident he can catch against this incredible DB group that Houston has. So he's had a lot of really good weeks. I just don't think this is going to be one of them.
I like it. My hidden gem kicker this week, Jake, Eddie Pinheiro. He is back for San Francisco and officially off the injury report. He had been hurt for the last couple of weeks, so they'd been having some fill-in kickers. They're taking on Tennessee, who's just absolutely terrible. They could score 7 touchdowns. We'll take 7 extra points. But this is more so of a rest of the playoffs play here. He has had in 7 of 11 weeks that he's been healthy, double digits. He's 22 of 22 on field goals made this year. So he's not missed a kick yet. And I think for the rest of the year, San Francisco's continuing to fight for the division against the Seattle Seahawks. So I think and the Rams. So there is a world where they are playing for so much more than some of these other teams. And right now he's only 8% rostered. So 7 of 11 weeks, double digits, has not missed a field goal yet with a high flying San Francisco offense. Sign me up, man. It's not just this week. I think the rest of the playoffs, he could really make a difference.
Yeah. I kind of feel similar with this player, Evan McPherson. So obviously weather plays a factor with them being in Cincinnati. You could get some weather issues in some of these games, but I just think this is going to be a team that's really going to be able to rack up points in the latter half of the season. Burrow's going to have to put up a lot of points for them to continue to win games. He's rostered right now at about 44% of leagues, so less than 50%. I expect it to be a shootout this weekend. So I think he's a great person to pick up. And as long as they're still in playoff contention, I think he's a great person to be starting throughout the rest of the year as well, just because I don't think there are many teams out there, regardless of how good your team is, that can stop the Bengals from getting up and down the field.
Yep. I love it. I loved McPherson last week, and I said something similar about rest of the season. It's just a great situation to be in. So I have him in one of my leagues, and I plan on just utilizing him for the rest of the playoffs. My hidden gem defense, Jake, it's your team. It's the Carolina Panthers. We talked about it earlier, so I will not spend a lot of time. Saints 28th against opposing defenses this year in terms of fantasy. They just had a spectacular performance against the Rams before the bye week, and now they're coming off a bye week, fresh, healthier. They're only rostered in 5% of leagues, so you could do a lot worse with a streaming option in the first round of the playoffs than the Carolina Panthers.
Yep. Yeah, I love it. Mine is not as widely available. I didn't love a ton of the matchups this week, but 49ers are still available in about 40% of leagues. They played the Tennessee Titans this week. I think an ideal matchup. This is actually the defense that I picked up that I plan to stream throughout the playoffs as long as they continue advancing. So they're one that I've been holding on to for a little while. I think that especially this week, if they're still available, you can get a playoff matchup against the Tennessee Titans. This is a spot where a defense could really help you win that matchup. If you're needing a double-digit performance out of a defense, can't really think of a better one than going up against the Titans.
Yeah, that's what I thought about the Browns last week, and then they shit the bed. But that was an anomaly. Yeah. We call that an anomaly. So I do like the perspective here. You want to fade the Titans any week you can. So whatever offense or defense is facing them, you're usually going to take advantage of that. That is all we have, man. That is everything for the episode. Man, what an awesome week this is going to be. It kicks off tonight with a big matchup. If you're watching and you enjoy the content, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It helps spread the word. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok is where all of our socials are. I am Sweetheart. That is Jake. Have a fantastic week. Let's win your matchup so you can move on to the semifinals. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. See you.